Welcome to Smex Ed. Class is in session.
I'm your host, Amanda King, and I'm here to teach anybody who wants to fucking listen how to have the audacity to say fuck it to societal standards and live their most authentic life. This podcast is dedicated to bringing the sexual conversations we have behind doors onto the main fucking stage. Because sex, masturbation, squirting, guess what? It is all normal. And by bringing these conversations to the forefront, we help people feel less alone in this world. We help them feel safe. We help them gain their power back. We help them step into their confidence and express themselves sexually in this world unapologetically. Because it takes fucking audacity to be your truest self. And we have a boatloads of audacity all up in this bitch. So let me ask you this. Are you ready for some epic shit?
Hello, everybody. So we are going to do something a little different for this episode. Every single month, I do a training for Smex Ed magazine. If you guys don't know what Smex Ed is, or you're a new follower, Smex Ed is a digital magazine that's completely free that teaches you the basic sex education you should have learned in school. And it is full of so many incredible fucking articles for literally everybody. We have articles about menopause and how it affects your sex life. We have articles that are for couples and how to communicate better. We have articles that are about kinks and exploration. We have articles that are about your bodies, male and female, and what they're capable of. And so for this episode, I wanted to give you a little bit of a sneak peek of the Smex Ed of the Month training. If you want to get access to this full training, you have to become a VIP subscriber on smexed.com, which is linked in the show notes. Now, a VIP subscriber, it's $1.99 a month, and you get access to all of the Smex Ed Class of the Month trainings. So past classes we've had is about the pussy, like literally the anatomy of the pussy. We've had one about like anal sex and why it's so taboo and like the beginning steps and how to prep for anal sex. We've had one that's a guided masturbation, which you get a script that you read and you can masturbate to, or I even did an audio version of it so you can listen to it, and it tells you basically where to touch yourself while giving you a background fantasy. And then we also have the one that I'm going to showcase today. This is our longest training to date that we've had on Smex Ed. It is literally 52.3. It's 52 minutes long, basically. And I'm going to let you hear the first 15 minutes of it on this platform in hopes that it educates those who are wanting to learn more about the types of orgasms, female squirting and female ejaculation, because we do talk about it a lot on this platform, and in hopes that it will motivate you to go check out the magazine, because like I said, it's free. Even if you don't subscribe to the Smex Ed Class of the Month, it's 1,000% worth checking out. There's 30 plus articles, like I said, dedicated to everyone and everybody. And it's a great way to be able to read these articles. And as well, if you ever have follow-up questions or feedback to the articles, you can leave comments on the blog, or you can email me or directly. My email is on the blog, or you can sit here and DM me. But my hopes are that more people make it to this magazine, because I do believe that this magazine is incredible. And thank you so much for those of you who do go to the magazine. We on average get about 10,000 visitors to the magazine site a month, which is fucking incredible. And I want that number to keep increasing, because it is so educational and it is for everybody, and it is my passion project. And I want people who love my podcast and listen to the information on my podcast be able to have a place where they can read articles that I write, but as well as articles that are written by other people. And you get to learn their voices as well, because I have a very bold and a very in your face dominant personality, and some people just don't relate to that. So if you like more of a softer, vulnerable tone, there are writers for that. If you like more of a strategic and like facts tone, there are writers who do that. So please go check out the magazine, www.smexed.com, and I hope you enjoy the 15 minutes of this training.
So let's jump into today's training, which is all about the different types of orgasms that the female body can have. So the female body is capable of, honestly, truly so many incredible aspects. And just it has so many capabilities that don't really get discussed, especially when it comes to female pleasure. Growing up during sex ed classes, we get, what is the word, we get taught more about like procreation and or how to avoid procreation by using protection or participating in abstinence, but we never really talk about the female body and its ability to orgasm. We talk about orgasms in men because ultimately society believes that male orgasms serve a purpose, which is procreation, and therefore we can talk about it and explore it, and they're allowed to experience that pleasure. But women don't really receive that same permission to really honor and allow their body to feel full pleasure. And therefore, we don't get educated on what our body is capable of, which leads to a lot of shame, fear, and guilt when it comes to our body. So, a lot of women, even with orgasms, the first time that they experience orgasms may not know what it is because it has become this, female pleasure has become this taboo topic where no one talks about it really. And then we grow up not knowing about it. And when our bodies do these things that we've never experienced before, we ultimately, in our head, make ourselves believe that it's wrong and that it's something that we should be, I don't know, shameful about or feel guilty about or be afraid and embarrassed about, when that isn't the case at all. And so my goal in this training is just to go over some of the things that the female body is capable of when it comes to achieving orgasms, because pleasure is a God-given right that you deserve. And if you can understand your pleasure more during this training, or the pleasure more of your partner, you innately can help them reach that precipice of pleasure more often, making you both feel safer and making your sex life better, because everyone feels safe in that moment and no one is embarrassed or ashamed or made to feel guilty about their body. So the female body is capable of what I call the 3 C's. Now, this is my terminology. So I'm going to discuss my terminology versus what medically and clinically is spoken of. So the 3 C's I speak of are climaxing, creaming, and coming. Now, climaxing is what I refer to as having an orgasm, and are interchangeable, right? When you hear about orgasms, people call them orgasms, or they discuss it like it is climaxing. When I say creaming, I am speaking about is female ejaculation. And this is where the terms get a little bit rubbed, right? Or I don't know, not overused, but misinterpreted and changed, right? So when we talk about creaming, we are talking about female ejaculation, but also it's referred to as coming. So you may hear it called creaming, you may hear it called coming, you may hear it called ejaculation. Now, what I refer to as coming is female squirting. And squirting, you typically just hear called squirting. The reason I call it coming is because I really don't like the terminology of squirting. I think that it puts a almost character, not characteristic, a cartoon characteristic on what is actually happening. And although, yes, some women do have the ability to squirt, as in the water does, the liquid, pardon me, does come out of them in a squirting motion, that's not always the case. And I think that when we refer to squirting, we use the terminology squirting, it makes women feel like they are a fire hose rather than actual women. And and this is my personal opinion on this. Like, there are people who really embrace the terminology squirting. I just don't like how it makes me feel personally when I talk about it. So I like to call it coming because that's what it is. It's a female ejaculating liquid that is because she is feeling extreme pleasure, either post or before or after orgasm. So in this training, we are going to discuss all of these different style of orgasms. And so what I want to discuss too is with having the 3 C's of the female body, climaxing, there are 12 different types of orgasms that the female body can produce. Now, creaming and coming are also styles of orgasms. Some people refer to them as orgasms, some of them refer to them as something different. It really all depends on what study you're reading, what article you're reading. And so I like to think of it as like there are 12 ways of climaxing, and creaming and coming are 2 additional things, 2 additional capabilities. That's a better terminology to use that your body is able to produce. And so not everyone has the ability to cream and or come. So I don't want you to go through this training and be like, well, I can't do that. That means something's wrong with me. It doesn't at all. And so I want to include all 3 as styles of female pleasure rather than maybe calling them, the 3 C's of orgasms. It's more of the 3 C's of the female body and female pleasure. So what is climaxing? So when you talk about climaxing, we are referring to what normal people would call an orgasm. Even if you look up Oxford dictionaries definition of an orgasm, it says a climax of sexual excitement characterized by feelings of pleasure centered in the genitals and in men, which I thought this was a fucking thing, experienced as an accompaniment to ejaculation. This should also say in women because women have the ability to ejaculate. And this just goes to show you on another level how ejaculation in our brain is only for men. And number 2, we even have to go, society has to go out of its way to just say in men, when women have the ability to ejaculate as well. So that needs to be changed and shifted, and the lingo around that and society's perceptions of who is allowed to climax or who is allowed to ejaculate versus who isn't needs to be shifted as well. But in general, sorry, that's another tangent, or everyone has the capability typically to experience an orgasm. So let's talk about what an orgasm is. An orgasm is when your body is reaching this state of what I call the climactic hill. If we look at a hill, we go up a hill, and when we get to the hill, we come back down. So when we are looking at an orgasm, there is stimulation of some sort, and we'll discuss what style stimulation in the slides further. But basically, in order to achieve an orgasm, there needs to be some type of sexual stimulation and or sexual excitement. And this causes your body to react to it. There are things, or what should I say? There are ways that people will classify orgasms, or I will get the question of like, well, how do I know if I'm having an orgasm? There are some telltale signs, but every single woman's body is different. And you're going to hear me say that 1,000 times during this training. So what may show as an orgasm for one woman won't show as an orgasm for another woman. But typically an orgasm feels like a full body experience. Some of the things that you can typically expect is arousal, right? Your body becoming aroused, whether it's through the wetness in your vulva or the hardening of your nipples or the pebbling of your skin as you get excited. There is always some type of arousal that happens. Typically, when you are getting close to the orgasmic state or releasing an orgasm, your body will react in ways that you can't control. Sometimes you will, what I say, buck forward, like your body kind of like jolts because of the sensations, because of how good it feels. Your toes sometimes will curl, your back will start to arch, your hips will start to sway. Your body will innately start taking over because it knows what it wants and it knows it needs that release. So this shows up in different ways for everyone. Some women experience what's called an orgasmic flush, where right before they're going to orgasm, they get super red in their chest and their face. Their breathing increases. Your blood pressure does raise when you're on your way up that climactic hill. So if you're experiencing an orgasm or you want to know what an orgasm feels like, those are different, I guess, I don't want to say symptoms, but that's, I guess, the best word to use, or signs of what one may be per person. Like I said, everything is a little different. Some women will say that close to orgasms, they can feel like pulsating within on their clit, within their inner thighs, within their vaginal canal. Some women will say that they feel like a tightness in their core and in their stomach. And it all depends on what type of orgasm you're experiencing too, because as we're about to discuss in the next slides, there are a bunch of different types of orgasms that each woman can feel. And each one is going to feel a little different depending on the area that you stimulate and depending on your body. So let's jump into the 12 types of orgasms. So we have oral orgasms. So that's orgasms through your mouth, kissing orgasms, nipple, clitoral, vaginal / G spot, A spot, U spot, cervical, anal, sleep, coregasm, multiple, and blended. So these are 12 different types. And we're going to go over each type right now and how to achieve each type of orgasm. But I'm specifically going into detail about only a few. So if we go back to this slide, we're going to go into detail about the vaginal and the G spot orgasm, the A spot, the U spot, the cervical, the anal, and the coregasm, just because those are the ones that I receive the most questions on. So we're going to dive a little deeper. Those are each going to get their own slide, but we're in general going to talk about every single one of them. So an oral orgasm is an orgasm achieved through oral fixation, oral, like mouth kissing. These orgasms tend to be a little rarer. These are not oral. When I say oral orgasms, I'm not referring to oral sex, like the act of someone going down on you. This is through pure kissing. And so a way to achieve an oral orgasm is to take your time and be very slow with it. It's slow, it's methodical, it's teasing the lips, it's teasing the tongue. It is, what's the word? It is deep, passionate kissing. And it's not that feverish kind of kissing. It's that methodical, slow style kissing. Like I said, this is one of the orgasms that is, I don't want to say least achievable, but definitely you don't hear a lot of people talking about it, which makes me believe that it's not one that is high up there in the percentile of achieving, but it is one that you can try to experience through kissing. A lot of people will say it's like a tingling sensation of the mouth. They will feel it in other parts of their body as well, a tightening of the thighs, right? A pulsing in their core or in their clit. So a nipple orgasm. Now, a nipple orgasm is pretty self-explanatory. It's an orgasm that is achieved through stimulation of the nipple. And nipple stimulation and what causes this style of orgasm is different from every single woman. So this can be licking, this can be sucking, this can be nibbling, this can be clamps or suction or something along those lines. If you want to experience a nipple orgasm, it's more about just taking the time to touch your own body or your nipples and play with them. So what they will say typically when you're trying to achieve a nipple orgasm is to not just focus on the nipple area itself, but to actually focus on your entire chest. So rub your hands across your chest a bunch of times, rub your hands between your breasts, cup your breasts, hold your breasts, massage your breasts, all while avoiding the nipple. So using like light finger touching, all while avoiding the actual nipple. And then as you are getting more and more aroused, then you want to start using nipple play, the biting, the sucking, the touching, the flicking, the pinching, whatever it is that makes you orgasm, right? And this will be different for every single woman. So don't be afraid to take your time with this. And sometimes nipple orgasms will entice you to want to touch other areas to create other style of orgasms. But if you want one specifically through your nipples, focus on that only. Clitoral orgasms are pretty straightforward and they're spoken about a lot. And that's because up to 80%, 80 to 90% of women can have orgasms via clit stimulation. The clit.
Thank you so much for listening to Smex Ed with Amanda.
And some parting words for you today. Remember this: no matter how hard society pushes you down, no matter how many times you fall, as long as you get the fuck back up, they can never stop you. You are unfuckable with. You will win. Don't allow this world to dictate how you show up in it. Don't allow society to make you bend the knee. Instead, make them bend theirs. And don't forget, if you like what you heard, go on to iTunes and Spotify and leave your girl a review. Until next time, my beautiful people.